to My American Dream, a monthly program of Finlandia Foundation National. During this program series, we are interviewing Finnish entrepreneurs who have come to the U.S. chasing their American dream. Finlandia Foundation is a nonprofit philanthropic organization that was established in Pasadena, California in 1953 for the purpose of supporting and celebrating Finnish American heritage while maintaining ties to contemporary Finland. A major source of private funding for Finnish and Finnish American cultural activities, Finlandia Foundation awards grants and scholarships and sponsors a variety of programs, from concerts to book talks to webinars and online presentations like My American Dream. To finance the production of its programming, Finlandia Foundation relies on private donations. Please visit our website to find out how you can help.
Welcome to My American Dream. For this episode, we are in San Francisco and talking with my old friend Mårten Mickos. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mikke.
So you have been in the US for quite a few years already and came here in reasonably similar ways or similar places as I did, but why don't you tell a little bit about your background and how you ended up here?
Sure.
Actually, that's a very long question.
That's a long question.
So let's start with your background.
Start with me as a baby.
Yes.
Well, if I rewind, I came 18 years ago here as CEO of a tech startup. And before that, I had been a tech startup CEO and entrepreneur all my professional career back in Finland. Because in the 80s, when I studied at Helsinki University of Technology, my friends got me excited about starting a company together, and we did that sort of as a hobby and just for the fun of it. And little did we know that it would consume me completely. Mm-hmm. Like I became a tech entrepreneur at that moment, and I've never been anything else. So I've seen a lot of the world and experienced a lot of things, but actually I'm boringly just a tech startup guy, and I've been it for, is it 30 years or 40 years? I can't even remember.
Yes.
I think it's 35 or something.
Yeah. But you have sort of technical studies in your background, so you have actually some content knowledge, even if most of your work doesn't have anything to do with it today, but you originally started off on the technical side, right?
It's true. I studied technical physics, and I have never needed the actual tech stuff I read, but I do think I learned problem solving and complex thinking and scenario thinking in that time. But everything I know about the industry or business, I have learned in the industry and in the business. So in a way, sure, I do have a master's degree in engineering, but when it comes to everything I've done, I'm sort of autodidact as anyhow, because you learn as you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you sort of started off, probably even before you actually became an entrepreneur, did you ever have sort of any ideas or thoughts about the US? Was sort of going to the US ever a thing for you?
It became, yes, the US became a dream for me. I was in the US as a 16-year-old kid, spent the summer in Denver, and to me it was, okay, I spent the summer here, cool, I go back home. It didn't start then, but later when I learned about Silicon Valley, it somehow got me excited, and my friends and me were dreaming of Silicon Valley and reading about Silicon Valley and listening to recorded talks from or about Silicon Valley and reading books about Silicon Valley. So we came here actually, the first company we started, we attended a conference here, the three of us. We rented a big, what for us was a giant American car, and drove down Highway 1, and we went to Stanford bookstore and did all those things. Yeah. And I do think around those times, I realized that this is a really cool place.
Yeah.
And that was late 80s, 88, 89 maybe.
Yeah. And you then eventually you sort of physically moved here with your family then during the fairly early days of MySQL.
Yes, I became CEO of MySQL in the spring of 2001, and 2 years later we raised a round of funding from Silicon Valley, and I told them that, I said, if you invest in us, I will move to Silicon Valley. And they said, if you move to Silicon Valley, we will invest in you. So the deal was done, and it was August 2003 that I moved here with the whole family. We settled in Los Altos on the peninsula, and the rest is
history.
The rest is something like history. Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the MySQL ride, because that was an amazing ride, and it's sort of certainly put the company on the map. It put you on the map. It put Finland on the map. It brought up many things that people didn't really know so much about Finland sort of on the map. And so share a little bit about that journey.
Yes, MySQL was later acquired for $1 billion, which back then was an enormous amount of money.
Yes.
And we were among the first European companies ever to be acquired at such a price. So in that sense, for all of Europe, there were not many that had made it in the US. You had SAP and Business Objects and a few other companies on the software side. And then we came with a database product developed in Finland that became popular all over the world. And when I came here in 2003, we were already used as the foundational database inside the key websites of the world. Yahoo was running on MySQL. Google was running on MySQL. Wikipedia was running on MySQL. Facebook hadn't started, but when Facebook started, it was built on MySQL. So all the giant web companies of the time used our database as their most central store of data. So when we came here and we had already millions of users around the world, we were received as heroes and rock stars or something. Like, it's very hard to build a company and build a successful company, but we never had the hardship of establishing ourselves in Silicon Valley, because upon arrival we were already very famous, and we got an investment from Benchmark Capital, which made us even more famous. Google was speaking about using us. I met Eric Schmidt, and he asked me in a meeting, he said, "Martin, how can Google help MySQL?" And I said, well, you can choose. Either you give us a lot of money or you give us a lot of publicity. And he said, I'll choose the option that costs me less. and after that, wherever he went, Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google, would praise MySQL in public. And of course, there's no better validation than that. So we had a wonderful landing here, and then it was still hard to build a business, but it was, in a way, it was a beautiful story from that moment on. A lot of hard things behind the scenes, but generally we did very, very well. And then we were acquired for $1 billion, which was unheard of at the time. So that created this final mark of success for a company that had started in 1995 in Finland and Sweden.
No, I mean, it clearly, I mean, I lived here, I watched this story, I've known you and some of the other folks there, and it was an incredible ride. But having said that, of course, now people don't really talk about MySQL anymore, because it got acquired and then acquired, and it's still in the infrastructure, but you know, it's not that much on the surface anymore. But you actually are, and specifically, of course, back in Europe, but also here, because you have done the one thing that so many entrepreneurs in Europe dream of, and very few achieve. So what, and specifically as we're talking about sort of Finns and Nordics and this whole relationship with the US, what are the sort of the main things that you would reflect on in terms of, you know, why did it happen to a Finnish company or you or something like that? You know, some things that come to mind.
It happened because in Scandinavia we are very good at technology. We are very progressive in new models. So open source software was not a big thing in many places, but it was in Finland and in Silicon Valley. So we had an advantage there. If I may sort of credit myself as well, I'm probably among all Finns among the more social and outspoken and talkative people and optimistic. And if you come from Scandinavia here and you want to land well and adapt to the locals, you have to learn to become sort of quick in your statements and comments and movements, and you have to enjoy meeting a lot of people. And I do that. So to me it was wonderful to get to a place where every day there were 10 more people to meet or 100 more people to meet, and they were all interesting, useful, they needed us, they had somebody to recommend or something. So when we talk about networking and what it means, it is a particular art and skill, and if you do it with enthusiasm, like it's not you have to be good at it, but you have to be enthusiastic, then a lot of doors will open for you. And I think I had this natural sort of natural instinct on how to do it, and maybe because I had been dreaming of Silicon Valley since the late 80s. Like to me, this was paradise. Sometimes I joke and say I thought Silicon Valley would be the promised land, and it's even more than that. It's the overpromised land. Meaning
that is so true.
In this place, if you don't learn to exaggerate, you're lost. And we see it in how people speak here. When you and I, as Silicon Valley people, when we speak, we're never excited. We're super excited.
Yes.
If you just say, I'm excited, people will look at you and think, what's wrong with you? Don't you like it? So you have to say super excited. And you have to say awesome, even for the most mundane things that only exist, but you have to say awesome. Because that's the way, this is so much about dreams. And dreams are awesome. So you must use the word awesome and super excited all the time. And now we come back to Finland. If you grow up in Finland, you are more or less told not to use overwords, not to exaggerate, not to make a number of anything, not to make a number of yourself, not to speak before you're asked to speak. But when you come here, those rules you have to leave at home.
So how do you see that the Finns have done on leaving those thoughts and those habits at home in the past years?
Somehow I see it's not ships meeting in the dark, but they have moved in both directions. To me today, Silicon Valley has much more of presence of humility and being silent and listening. And vice versa, the Finnish entrepreneurs now coming here, they are not as sort of boring as my generation was. Like they fit in immediately, they know the language, they know the small talk, they can use the language and the lingo in the right way. So when you see them, they don't differ from the locals or from anybody else coming here. So it's wonderful to see a young Finnish entrepreneur coming here, and you look at them and you realize they fit in much better than you fit in when you arrived. And they don't even say they are from Finland, and they don't even have to say it. They're just equipped to do well in a global, diverse world, and it's just wonderful. And there are many of them. Kristo Ovaska and Joonas Lehtinen and Jenny Wolfram and
Yeah, there is
Christian Ranta and Ari Tulla.
yeah.
There's a whole list of them, different age groups have come here at different times, but they're just phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, very interesting when you say that, because I do distinctly remember how early on, again, we were amongst the early comers here, that you actually made a point out of that we're from Finland, because we ourselves believe that people sort of relate to Finland as being quality, dependability, design and style, and sort of really good things were sort of related with Finland, and they were used much more. Whereas, just as you say, today it's not the case here anymore. I mean, those are all important things, but it doesn't sort of, coming from Finland doesn't give you a ticket in
No.
or out.
And it didn't back then.
No.
Like, this is the mistake many of us make. We come here, we talk about where we are from,
Yes.
but we should talk about where we are
Going.
Like,
Yes.
where are we heading? That's what they are interested in.
exactly.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And Finland, Russia, Italy,
yeah,
whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
Because what matters is what you are trying to do.
Yes.
But speaking about what you are trying to do is also difficult, and Finnish and Scandinavian people are not educated in speaking about that. Like, getting them to say, I have a dream, I have a plan, I have an ambition, here it is, and to do that without sounding self-centric, but sounding like having a servant mindset yet being very ambitious. I think that's the key of making friends here and being accepted, because everybody wants to know that you are about to do something, but nobody wants to listen to a self-centric, arrogant guy or girl. Like,
Yeah.
people, you somehow have to find the humility combined with the ambition level.
Yeah.
And they are not contradictory, they fit together.
Yeah, yeah. But that's of course a thing that has changed tremendously here also.
Yes.
In that the early successful entrepreneurs were not very sort of low key. I mean, you look at the Steve Jobs or you know, many of them that
We have them still today.
yeah, we still have them, but there is much more humility, and it has sort of, because this is the sort of the melting pot, and it has melted already for a long time. So you start to see sort of strengths in many different things. So moving on a little bit, now you stepped into sort of your next phase, which I'm sure surprised lots of people, and was just generally, I think, specifically today, it's a testament to your ability to see slightly beyond the horizon of what is becoming important rather than what is important. So fill in the blanks for what I just set you up for.
Yes, I joined HackerOne as CEO exactly 6 years ago.
Okay.
On the day 6 years ago.
Champagne.
Yes, exactly. We need to celebrate.
Yeah.
And at HackerOne, we hack you for your good. Because we have learned that software is wonderful, but it's not secure. We've built an internet that's sorely missing. It's dysfunctional, crappy, full of holes, breaking down all the time. We built good functionality, but we haven't made sure it's robust. So somebody needs to go in and find all the vulnerabilities of software. And we do that at HackerOne, and we don't do it ourselves, but we have outsourced it, crowdsourced it to a community outside of more than 1 million ethical hackers who we call and say, could you please go and hack Uber, go and hack Twitter, go and hack Goldman Sachs, go and hack the Department of Defense, one of our biggest customers. And when we find a hole in the system, then we give it to them and show how we did it so they can fix it.
Yeah.
If anybody watched the movie Sneakers with Robert Redford, 1982, they have that business with banks. They break into banks to see whether it's possible, and they are paid by the banks. We do the same in the software world. We are paid by those who build software to find out whether we could break in. So we sort of think the bad but do the good. Our hackers have that evil genius, but they use it for a good purpose.
You have in this workforce, the hacker workforce, you have of course people who have always done this for a good cause, but you also have people who have basically changed sides and have been the black hats in the past and have changed that to a white hat on the way. How does that process work? Do you somehow facilitate that, or is it just people who pop up and say that I'm done with stealing?
I don't think we have more than a handful who have switched from black to white. But what we do have, we have a lot of people who, when they grew up, didn't have a sense for right and wrong. And anybody here, we could ask anybody, what did you do as a teenager? Did you follow every rule? And most people say no. And we do, when part of growing up is doing crazy stuff. So it's true that many of our hackers grew up, and as teenagers they may have done something that wasn't perfectly by the book, but it was not criminal. It wasn't with a bad intent. It was a prank. It was to test whether it's possible. It was curiosity, a little bit of arrogance, I'm sure, but those are not signs of a criminal.
No.
We do have, we have a wonderful hacker, one of our best, Tommy DeVos, who openly speaks about how he got 4 times convicted for cybercrime, and then he switched. And now he preaches this new model to everybody. He goes to school to tell children about it. So you have some who switched, but he says he was so stupid. He made no money when he broke into, was it the Navy's systems? He just did it out of some sort of spite and rebelliousness. Then when he joined us, he started making money immediately. And now he has made over $1 million. And when I spoke to him, he said, how could I be so stupid? It's wrong to break the rules, but it didn't even pay off. You make much more money by doing the good thing. But those are the rare cases. Most are, they just, as they grow up, look for that moral compass and they find it. And they become great hackers.
Well, I'm glad that you're providing a home for those that are finding the right moral compass.
But this is the purpose of youth movements. Like 110 years ago when Robert Baden-Powell started the Scout movement, he had that purpose. He saw young men idling and he worried they would start doing harm. So he asked them to start doing good. And all the other youth organizations are similar. Sports, agriculture, all kinds of things. They're there to give young people a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose so that they start taking responsibility. And we do the same. And we have over 1 million of them. And half are 24 or younger. So, and I just saw one in Turkey, 16 years old, high school kid, posting on Twitter saying, I'm a hacker at HackerOne, I'm interested in cybersecurity, I'm interested in virtual internships. So he can't leave Turkey because he still goes to high school. But he's already a member of the global hacking community, learning from others and learning a trade that will serve him very well.
Cool. So you have tremendous passion for what you do. How do you talk to, in Finland again, if we look at how people there are, there's definitely lots of passionate people and so forth. But how much of sort of the passion side do you, when you talk to Finnish entrepreneurs, do you sort of try to underline or try to say that they have to have it or they have to find it? And again, passion is the same thing as going out there and talking to people, even if it doesn't feel like the absolutely best thing you could do every evening.
Yeah, well, first of all, I tell young people that they shouldn't follow their passion. Sure, if you know what your passion is, follow it. But if you don't know what your passion is, don't worry, it will come. It's not like we all have some passion coded into our DNA and our job is to find it. No, sure, our job is to find what our passion is, but passion comes by doing. So you can sort of fake it until it arrives. So if you start working on something, just tell yourself you're passionate. And you say, okay, maybe I'm not really passionate, but I'll pretend for the first week. After a week, you are already a little bit passionate. And then you build on that. And you can do anything in the world. It doesn't matter. You could be a fisherman or a farmer or a tech entrepreneur, and you can love what you do. And you love it even when it's really bad. Like it feels boring or hard or terrible or like you really don't like it, but you've decided that it's your passion and then you power through.
And it becomes your passion.
Yeah, it becomes your passion.
Yeah.
And then when people say, how did you find your passion or how did you know? Then I would say, I didn't know. I had no idea when we started our first company in 1987 that I would become a serial entrepreneur. I thought I would become like a cigar smoking boss of an industry or something, you know, like we dream of when we are in our early 20s.
Exactly, exactly.
But it didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have no regrets.
Yeah. Do you have other passions than leading young people along the way, which is mainly what you do as a CEO?
No, not really. Well, I like to read a lot and think a lot and develop my thinking. So that is a passion of mine.
Yeah.
And I actually decided when I was in my 20s, when you dream of glory, like being a cigar smoking boss of an industry. But I also decided, I realized everybody else had set some goals for themselves. So I thought, okay, I need to set a goal for myself and write it down and look at it in 30 years. And I decided that I want to achieve wisdom, that would be my goal. And I sort of didn't think about it much, but the fact that I told myself this thing meant that I actually started doing it. Yeah. Like, I think your body will do things that you think about. If you think about it a lot, your body will start doing it without asking for your permission. So if you think about being positive, your body will make you positive. If you think about going out a lot, your body will bring you out a lot. If you think about reading books, then your body will make you read books without you sort of realizing it.
Yeah.
So I actually am thankful I said that to myself because it keeps me going when I'm reading something that's sort of hard to consume and you have to think a lot and it's difficult. But my body is sort of knows that that's what I asked it to do, so it has more stamina in that pursuit. Maybe I'm now constructing this truth, but I think I'm driven by my own decision.
Yeah. But it's sort of in the medical world you have the placebo effect, which is similar in that you think that you have eaten something that will make you better and you become better.
Yes, yeah. Voltaire said, I have decided to be happy because it is good for my health. Yeah. And to me it's so sharp. Like, whether you are happy or not is within your own decision making. Yeah. And you should do it not because you need to be happy, but because you need to be healthy. And if you can be happy, you are more healthy. Yeah. So it's not like you have to be happiness and sort of pursue happiness all the time. You decide to be happy so that you can be healthy, because when you're healthy, you have more energy to do what you wanted to do. Yeah. Or something like that.
What a great ending to end it with happiness and good health. Yeah. And I'm so happy to sit down with you and have you share your story with our wonderful audience, and they should be happy for what they're receiving. And with that, I really want to thank you. This has been a very interesting session with you.
Thank you, Mikke.
Thanks.